Ladies and gentlemen, what is up, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking all about the best champions for Alliance Quest in Marvel Contest of Champions and how to build your team. So today's guide is primarily aimed at beginners and people looking to rise the ranks and become the best person in their alliance in Alliance Quest. And we're mainly going to be focusing on kind of map 3 and map 5 because those are the two maps that are very commonly run in the game by the majority of the community. And today we're not going to be talking about map 6 at all, because that is a whole other kettle of fish. That one has so much additional stuff in comparison to map 3 and map 5 that you need to talk about. So many alternative setups there, especially with nodes like All or Nothing, unblockable special 2s that are really tricky, degeneration. Like, there's a lot more stuff to talk about in map 6 that really is not applicable to a lot of the beginner stuff. So in the future we're going to do a separate video talking about map 6 and how to build your team and different options for different paths. But today, mainly, we're going to do a guide focused on beginners and kind of how to build your team and stuff as you're coming up, you're progressing, and having a team that can actually clear Alliance Quest. Because that's one of the mistakes that I see a lot of newer players making, is just not kind of choosing very, very good champions to kind of rank up and use in Alliance Quest. And especially if you do map 3 and map 5, it kind of starts to whittle down to individual players, whether or not you can complete the quest, advance, get the better rewards. So today's guide aims to educate you on how to build a team and which champions I suggest using for different functions in Alliance Quest. And hopefully this is going to help you out. It's going to make you more successful, your alliance more successful in Alliance Quest. So yeah, hopefully today you find this video fairly useful. But anyway, when it comes to Alliance Quest, now we're mainly focusing again on map 3 and map 5. I think there are kind of like 6 different categories of potential champion. So you have sustainable champions, which are ones for clearing, so those are champions that have some sort of regeneration mechanic that's pretty good, so they can just keep on going on, and every fight they're recovering a little bit of health. Or champions that can kind of mitigate so much damage, like Captain America, if you're playing well, that it doesn't really matter if you're taking, you know, blocked hits here and there, because you're going to take practically no damage. And just other champions that have ways of kind of at certain thresholds, like regenerating a lot of health, and there are clever ways you can play them to keep on like sustaining your health, sustaining that champion's life as you go throughout the map. Because that's something very, very important, is to have a champion or a couple of champions that can provide that function. Now, the next thing we talk about is Groot killers. So Groot killers are, you know, exactly what they say on the tin. They're champions that have some sort of like insane mechanic or just a really, really good option for fighting Groot in Alliance Quest map 3. So if you do map 5, you don't need to worry about those too much. Then you have your Cyclops and Kang killers. However, a bit of a disclaimer with Cyclops and Kang killers, like for those two bosses in particular, like you can just use pretty much any champion. Like any champion with decent damage is going to do the job, providing you spam bait the special one. I guess kind of that's the same with Groot, but there are certain champions of Groot that just take advantage of kind of turning his buffs against him so well that, you know, it doesn't really matter. Like, they're going to be significantly better options. But with Cyclops and Kang, like, pretty much any champion will work. Like, providing you're playing well, providing you're baiting the special ones, like, it's a pretty easy game there. You don't have too much to worry about when it comes to map 5 boss killing. It's all about just parrying well and being a good player, evading those specials. Then the next category you have is you have your poison lane champions and your bleed lanes. So in map 5, I don't think there are any bleed lanes, but there is definitely a poison lane there. You have a heal block lane instead of a bleed lane. But I know in map 3 there is a bleed lane, so that's why I decided to include it there. Now, so those are the 6 categories of champion. Before we start talking about some of the champions in each category, I wanted to give you like a rough idea of maybe what you should be aiming for depending on your level. So if you're a novice, if it's kind of like your first time, you know, running these maps, you probably want to aim for like 2 sustainable champions. So if one dies, you have an additional backup option, and then try and go for like 1 boss killer. It's always nice to have a champion that can deal like a lot of damage. Ideally, if it's poison immune as well, that is amazing. If it's also a sustainable one, like that is amazing. Then you also have your poison and bleed lane set up. So You know, if you've been playing Alliance Quest for a little bit, you're a fairly good fighter and you get assigned to a poison and bleed lane. You probably want one sustainable champion, one poison or bleed immune champion, and one boss killer. But ideally, like, your boss killer champion or your champion with really high damage output also covers your lane as well. So for example, if you got the poison lane, then maybe like a Hulk and a Captain Marvel as well as a sustainable champion that could regen would be pretty good. And if you are like the most amazing boss killer in the world, and that's been your assignment for Alliance Quest, then you maybe want to go with one sustainable champion to clear throughout the map, and then two boss killers. If, you know, gives you an option to fall back on if your first one does fail. But, you know, if you're known for being the boss killer in your alliance, which again, a lot of this stuff is about coordination and having a chat with your Alliance Quest team, because it really is a team effort when it comes to Alliance Quest. So kind of communicate what level you're at, what you're comfortable dealing with, and then kind of build your setup and roster accordingly. So anyway, let's talk about the different categories of champion and which champions fall under it and how they kind of work. So sustainable champions, Scarlet Witch is still a pretty good option. Her regeneration is insanely strong and does proc. Usually, like, it depends on your prestige and how stacked the opponents are, but my 441 will usually proc like once or twice a fight for the regen, providing I get a nice crit, so she's still a pretty good option. However, I'd say Wolverine is a great option for a sustainable champion, very, very reliable there. His regeneration is insane if you don't use any special attacks, so he's a great option there. You've got Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider does require a lot of practice to play effectively, but with his heavy attack, you have like this crazy regeneration now. And a pro with Ghost Rider is he also falls under a bleed immune champion, so he's got that going for him. Very, very good champion for a lot of stuff in Alliance Quest. Dr. Voodoo has that guaranteed regeneration at the start of every fight, which is doubled if you have the character awakened, and heals you for about 25% of your maximum health. So having that guaranteed at the start of every fight is really, really awesome. It's really, really good. Makes Dr. Voodoo a great champion for Alliance Quest. And you have Captain America. If you can play well, he's got like significantly increased block. It doesn't matter which one you use, the Classic, the World War II, they are both great options for Alliance Quest. But yeah, they're really, really good champions. But the caveat with Captain America is no regeneration. You just need to be a pretty good player. But providing you're a pretty good player, hey, it's going to work very, very well for you. You can get through Alliance Quest without taking much damage at all. Then you have Ultron. Ultron is an Alliance Quest MVP. He is so good because not only does he have regeneration at the 25 and 50% thresholds, he also can take both either a poison or bleed immune lane, so he's still a really, really great option for that. My Ultron is currently a rank 5. I've been using him a lot for Alliance Quest map 5, also Alliance Quest map 6. He's not the best damage dealer, but he's a really, really good sustainable champion for clearing. So I really do like using Ultron, and I advocate him as a really decent champion for Alliance Quest. But yeah, it doesn't have great damage output. That's the only downside. It's alright though. Then you also have Iron Man Superior and Classic. Let me just actually change that. It shouldn't be Super. But yeah, Iron Man is a great character. As a potential, sometimes it's a little bit tricky with Iron Man because his regeneration threshold is at 15%. But if you can trigger that just via maybe taking kind of a light block tip, and you can get a really nice burst of regeneration that is going to top you up for about 50% health, so it's going to get you above like 65% in most cases. If you have the recovery mastery, maybe it's about a 60% regeneration there. So it's some really, really good stuff. Now we start to move into some characters that, you know, they're all right regeneration options, but they're not as good in my opinion as some of the ones at the top. And these again are in no particular order, but I'd say the line is probably drawn about here. So you have X-23, she has great damage but less regeneration than Wolverine, but still a viable option to use. You've Doctor Strange, again a little bit of a gimped regeneration there, but still has the option to do that while he's in his lifesteal phase. You have Mordo. On his special free, he has a chance to regenerate based on his health lost. And with Mordo, you already have kind of the passive power gain on him. So that's really, really good. Allows him to get to the special freeze quite quickly. So he's potentially a viable option as well. And especially for like map 3, he can also be a very, very good Groot killer. Then you have Rogue as well, reliable health steal on her special 1, also power drain on her special 2. But yeah, Rogue is a pretty badass champion to use, but again, her regeneration is nowhere near as powerful as potentially Wolverine's, but she's a great character to rank up for Prestige, which makes her a pretty good rank 5 option. And if you got her lying about, hey, you just might want to use her for Alliance Quest. She ain't too bad for that. Then you also have Phoenix. So Phoenix, there's a bit of an interesting way to play Phoenix, because she kind of has this deferred death mechanic, and for every stack of Phoenix Force you have, you regain a certain amount of health. So with Phoenix, you kind of, now this is a lot more reliable than it used to be, you kind of want to get very close to death, and then use a heavy attack special 2, that'll give you like 5 charges, and then before you hit 10 stacks of Fury, you want to die. But it's a really complicated mechanic, and some of the time it will fail, and it's a little bit of a risky one there. But Phoenix is by far the best cosmic champion outside of Thanos, who is just so insanely exclusively rare that she's probably going to be your best option for Prestige. But you can use her for that, providing on the provision that she's awakened, of course. And there's a way to recover health there. But again, it's a little bit sketchy, a little bit unreliable, but I enjoy using my Phoenix for Alliance Quest. As you can see, she's in my team at the moment as well, along with Wolverine and Ultron, and she ain't too bad. I mean, if you got her at 550, like any 550 character is probably going to tear through anything, so ain't too bad. Now we move on to 2 of the new characters. You've got King Groot and Angela. Both of these actually have some fairly solid regeneration mechanics here. So King Groot, I think King Groot is going to be like a map 6 bleed lane MVP, because he has insane regeneration that you can just keep on triggering again and again and again, that every time his Fury cools off, which when he's like at max dupe level, heals him for about 15 to 20% of his maximum health. So a lot of value there for King Groot. Don't really know too much about his damage output there, but maybe might be a little bit gimped as a result. But King Groot seems like a bit of a badass for Alliance Quest, but I'm not really too sure about his viability when it comes to stuff like Alliance War. Same with Angela, because they have so many buffs. So I think they're going to be a little bit gimped in that department. For Alliance Quest, they are awesome. They're amazing champions. And then finally you have Angela. So for every like percentage of damage taken, Angela gains like this buff, which allows her to recover health. So yeah, she's a little bit of regen there, and I really need to wait to kind of test out Angela a little bit more, but I think she's going to have some pretty insane damage as well. So I think she might be a good option for a regeneration champion and also a boss killer, and she doesn't need to be awakened. So that's what she's got going for her, whereas King Groot, he does need to be awakened, but I think map 6 onward, like King Groot, he's going to be the MVP, because he's bleed immune, and there's a lot of nasty bleed stuff in map 6. Now, let's talk quickly about Groot killers. So Scarlet Witch is still a great option for the Nullify. Magic, Dr. Voodoo, and Mordo can like totally destroy Groot. Magic with her special 3, Dr. Voodoo with his special 1, and Mordo with his special 2, because they all kind of convert the buffs into like additional damage in their own unique ways, but they're all really great options for that. And outside of that, Star-Lord is still amazing for fighting Groot. You just want to bait the special 1 on Groot if you're not familiar with the strategy there. And Doctor Strange, he's still an alright option. You got your class advantage there. He can throw Groot around a bit and kind of mass dispel a lot of the very annoying buffs when awakened. So yeah, you got that going for you, fighting against Groot with Doctor Strange. But really with Groot, like, those are just some of the suggested ones. Again, like, pretty much any champion will work, providing you play pretty well. And next up we have Cyclops and Kang killers. These are all pretty much the same. I think some of the suggested ones, Hyperion I think is great. He's just so incredibly powerful. Great option for that. Plus he is, you can use him in poison lanes as well, which he's got going for him. Scarlet Witch is also a great option, still loaded damage. Star-Lord, Hulk, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel. I decided to put a lot of additional like utility and poison champions in here. But the main point for Kang and Cyclops is pretty much any champion will work, like, but ideally take another champion for either the sustainable or the poison immune path, because that way you're going to have like champions that can do 2 potential things, because you will always have those scenarios where somebody might somebody's phone might die. Like, you might not have this on a weekly basis, but every few weeks, and they'll be like, oh dude, you need to pick up this poison lane, and if you don't have a poison immune champion, sometimes I have seen like Alliance Quest lost to that in the past. So if you have a champion that is a little bit versatile, that can do kind of the best of both worlds, then that is a fairly good option to pick up there. Then you also have the Poison Lane champions. So a few more champions are actually poison immune, but these are just the ones I suggest. So you got Ultron, you got the regen there as well. Vision is pretty good for his power control. Hyperion, great champion, so much fun. Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, pretty much the same champion, just solid damage output and poison immune. You've got Hulk, he is crazy good now with a stun on a special one. Black Bolt, great damage output champion, also has the stuns on his special attacks. Then you also have Dormammu, you've got insane power control mechanics, you've got poison and bleed immunity, he's got a lot going for him. Same for Iceman, just crazy good champions there. Then also in the bleed lane, you have Ultron and Vision. Again, you have the potential to use Ghost Rider. I think King Groot is going to be an MVP for that lane as well when he is awakened. Then you also have Dormammu and Iceman. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's video and it gave you a decent overview of which champions are pretty good to use in your team for Alliance Quest. If you do have kind of any additional suggestions or champions that I may have overlooked, again, these are just kind of my personal recommendations and opinions. There's pretty much like any champion you can use for boss killing, providing if you just need to be good at obeying the special 1 and special 2. There's a lot of versatility, but I think, you know, the key to having a winning Alliance Quest team is being able to take a sustainable champion and also just having a champion ready to take like a poison or bleed lane for, you know, those really tricky situations in map 3 and map 5. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, that'd be greatly appreciated. Again, one of the things that I want to shout out is MCOC Infobot. If you don't already have that, it's an amazing infobot online, and if you type in like AQ map 3 or AQ map 5, you can actually get full maps for Alliance Quest. So if you're not too sure, you know, all the enemies are kind of mystery until you stumble across them. So if you want to see those enemies beforehand, because they are the same every single Alliance Quest, then definitely download Infobot, or add it online, and then use that, because it's an amazing tool. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like, that'd be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, take care and have an absolutely fantastic day.